Welcome to this podcast series where we have been interacting with some of the most distinguished technological innovators and leaders. It's a pleasure to have with us today Professor Yogi Goswami, who is a distinguished professor at the University of South Florida and is a very distinguished alumnus of the erstwhile Delhi College of Engineering and graduated in the 1969 batch of mechanical engineering. He's also the director of the Clean Energy Research Center at the University of South Florida. He conducts fundamental and applied research in solar thermal energy, thermodynamics, heat transfer, HVAC, photovoltaics, and hydrogen and fuel cells. He has published 23 books, over 400 research publications, and has 42 patents to his credit. He's also the inventor of the famous Goswami thermodynamic cycle. He's also the co-founder and chief scientist of the company Molecule, which has been ranked as the world's top 25 innovations by the Times Magazine. He also serves as the editor-in-chief of some of the preeminent scientific journals in solar energy. For his extraordinary contributions and innovation, Dr. Goswami has been inducted into the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame in 2016. He has also been an advisor to the US Congress and to the Prime Minister of India on solar energy policy. It's really a pleasure for us, sir, to have you with us, and we want to thank you that you were able to spare your time to be with us today for this podcast.
It's indeed a pleasure for me to be here, my alma mater.
Absolutely, sir. So, sir, your journey with the Delhi College of Engineering, it started way back in 1964. And at that time, the BE Tech degree, it used to be 5 years. You graduated in 1969. So first of all, I think a good point to start with would be, would you like to relive some of those memories and tell our viewers something more about those times?
Okay, sure. So that was a time when the Delhi College of Engineering was one of the preeminent institutions in the country. Even now, it's a preeminent institution, but the admission to this university was very difficult. So selected students from all over the country used to be here. So when I was a student, it was a very tough competition with the other students in the class, but that actually is very helpful, because when your other students are very bright, then they pull you up.
Absolutely. Right.
So I enjoyed my stay here, not just in studies, but also we had a lot of fun together. And the professors at that time, I'm sure that even now they're very distinguished professors, but we especially had very distinguished professors that I felt gave us the best education they could.
Absolutely. And then after graduating from here, you went on to do your MS and PhD from the US, and then, you became a professor. So we would also like to know from you, was this path always carved out very clearly in your brain, or did it evolve somewhere along the way?
Well, some things I had already planned, some things just happened. So, for example, I did want to go to graduate school to do master's and PhD, and the choice was, do I work for a few years and then go for it, or do I go to graduate school right away? Mm-hmm. So I decided to go to graduate school right away. So I left for USA right then in 1969, started my master's program and then my PhD program. So I finished my PhD in 1975 in mechanical engineering. After that, I had to make a choice whether to stay in USA or to come back to India and work over here. I did come back also in 1975, hoping that that was the end of my foreign journey and I would just stay here and do something. But things did not work out well. So I decided to go back. I went back and right away I got job as an assistant professor of mechanical engineering.
Excellent. Yeah.
And at that time, Again, the choice was, what do I do in mechanical engineering?
Yeah.
So somehow in my mind, our future energy solution was a big concern, at least for me, because I had seen that in 1972, when the oil producing countries did an oil embargo on the oil consuming countries, that at that time there were miles long lines of cars at the gas stations, and some cars would run out of gas even before they got to the gas station. So I started to think as to, is this our future or is this something different? So that's when I figured that our future energy source has to be what doesn't have to come out of the ground, because what is in the ground is going to run out someday. So solar energy to me seemed like that source. It will be available at least for another few 100 million or billion years. So then I started to focus on that. Right. Although at that time, everybody else thought that I was probably out of my mind to work in that field. It did not have any future, and there's going to be very little contribution of solar energy in our energy infrastructure. But time has proved me right.
Absolutely,
That
absolutely.
today, everyone knows
Yes.
that solar energy has to be a major part of our future energy source.
Absolutely, I think.
So I just focused on solar energy at that time, and I've spent my life in that.
And you've done so phenomenally well. I mean, you know, your contributions in the field of solar energy, and I should say renewable energy in total, have been exceptional. And DTU is very, very proud of that. And we really feel that, you know, this series of interaction with you, this will be very encouraging for our students. And it'll make them see, as you said, that, you know, one day the resources are going to run out. So we have to focus on the ones which are renewable, as you said. So, Professor Goswami, we'd also like to know from you that, you know, in DCE you were doing mechanical engineering, and then you went on to do your work in renewable energy. So, do you think in some way, and we'd like to know in what way, the training that you had at DCE, how did it help you later on, maybe in your studies or even in your career in some way? That we would like to know from you.
Okay, that's a very good question. Number one, that our professors here, they really challenged us to do our best. At the same time, they were the ones who inspired us also. And I remember that they would challenge us and inspire us to think differently, to think of things not just what's in the books, but outside the books. I think DCE prepared me extremely well to do well in graduate studies and also in the later career. So I'm extremely grateful to my professors of that time, to my colleagues, my classmates at that time, who also challenged me and inspired me for doing what they did for me. Because I am what I am because of them.
That's so nice to hear from you. And so we would also like to know that, you know, as we pursue our careers, I mean, and this question is specifically for our students that I'm asking, that there are always some challenges that lie on the way. So during your student life, what challenges you faced and how did you overcome them? That would be a great answer for our students to get encouraged from.
Well, so those are the years when you're young. So it's usually 16, 17 years old to 21, 22 years old in your undergraduate degree in college. And so some challenges are in education, some are in personal life, and so one has to navigate all of those challenges to keep moving forward.
Right.
For example, in my case, when I was a high school student or higher secondary student,
Right.
I was always among the top.
Right.
And in the college, for the first 3 years, I just relaxed too much.
Right.
I was not doing that well.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Right.
But then I felt that, certainly I can do much better. Hmm? So in the 4th and 5th year, I worked very hard and got back to where I should have been at the end of my
Exactly.
education.
Yeah.
But again, I would say that DTU gave me all the opportunities. The laboratories that we had, they were very well equipped. I visited a university in China, which they call the MIT of China, Tsinghua University. And my comment to them was that when I was a student at Delhi College of Engineering, my labs were much better equipped than the labs at Tsinghua University, which is the MIT of China.
So this is wonderful.
And so that told me that how valuable my education was at Delhi College of Engineering.
Right. That's great to know, sir. So we have also, we've seen your innovation that you did, your company whose co-founder you are, you're the chief scientist of the company. It's an air purifier molecule. And we would like to know how this came into origin, how did you conceive the idea, what challenges you faced, and ultimately, it made its way through the top 25 innovations of the world. So we would like to know more about that.
Yeah, so let me say one thing for the benefit of the students as well as others who are listening, that college gives you education, and if you get, for example, a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, say I can certainly do mechanical engineering, but my advice is to not limit yourself to that. All that degree says that you are a very intelligent person who can do that degree as well as other things. So then keep your mind open to what problems you face and how you would solve them. And those solutions don't have to be mechanical engineering. They can be in any field.
Absolutely.
So let me get back to your original question, which was the innovation that led to this company molecule. So I was working in the field of solar energy, and I had done very well. I demonstrated a new technology that was set up at an Air Force base in USA, where we use sunlight to clean contaminated groundwater. The groundwater was contaminated with jet fuel. This was an Air Force base. So, but my mind was consumed with a problem that my son had. My son was asthmatic from birth. And so we took care of his food allergies and food triggers for asthma, but he still had some triggers, and I felt that maybe they were in the air. And so one time I was traveling someplace and I started to think the solar energy technology that I have developed, maybe I can use that to decontaminate air also. The only thing is I won't be able to use sunlight, but I could use an artificial light of the same wavelength. So that started my research in that area. But the interesting part was that this technology was all based on chemistry. And so in my mechanical engineering, I did study chemistry, but that was not the focal subject. So keeping my mind open, I was able to learn this photochemistry that was needed over there. Not only that, because of that demonstration at an Air Force base, I was featured on CNN headline news and NBC News and other news. So a professor called me and said that what you're doing is very interesting. Do you mind if I work with you? And this professor was most famous in the field of disinfection. So I said, certainly, I would love to have you work with me, but we will focus on disinfection. And so that meant that I had to learn microbiology.
Absolutely. Oh, great.
So the point I'm making here is the education I got in the beginning simply showed that I have the mental capability to learn and do things. Not that my mind should be limited to just mechanical engineering. And so we developed a technology that would disinfect indoor air. And that technology, we made a small air cleaning system which went into my son's bedroom. And after 2 weeks, I overheard him tell my wife, Mom, I have not been using my inhaler that much.
Wonderful.
So that was a proof to me that it's working. So eventually, he's the one who suggested we start a company, because he said it's helping me so much. We should do something that helps everybody else also.
That's a great
So
idea.
that was the reason for setting up the company.
Very interesting.
And later both my son and my daughter, they're both engineers. So
great.
they are the ones who led the company, and it was a very successful company.
Oh, great. So this is really an interesting, story, and it's really encouraging for our students as well. And I think, as you said, that one has to think out of the box.
Yes,
You
indeed.
cannot limit your learning to a particular field of science, like you said.
Right,
So I think that sends a great message to our students
Right.
as well. So, so the next thing, you have recently been very generous, and you've contributed $100,000 for the Center for Energy and Environment at Delhi Technological University. So I guess on behalf of the university, first of all, I want to express gratitude for that, and we would also like to know from you that in a big picture, as you are sponsoring this center, where do you see DTU fitting in the big picture of the renewable energy for India? What's your vision for DTU in this field in the next 10 years, or in general, in the next 10 years?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say the future of clean energy or renewable energy, which because of global climate change, is extremely important for us. We need to get to net zero carbon emissions as early as we can. When I think of that, I say, okay, we, people of my generation, have done what they could. But these future generations, our students now, and the future students who will come, they will come up with innovations much better than we could. And so how do we make that happen? And this is my way of helping, that my wife and I, we said, okay, we have the money, let's put it to this use. And the other important part is that when you give somebody $100, that person spends the money and that's gone. Right? But if you spend that $100 on a student for the education, it multiplies so much. Because of that contribution may do so much for this world. So that is my hope, that DTU will produce those students, those innovators. That includes not just the students but also the faculty members, that they are the ones who will come up with the solutions for our problems.
Absolutely. So I think once again we thank you that you saw this big vision for our university, and alumni like you have been so supportive, and not just now, over the years we have seen that you have been supportive to all of us in various ways. So we thank you for that. And so we also, from this time, the university is proposing a position for a distinguished professor in residence for alumni who have been doing faculty, they've been holding faculty positions, or they've been doing research outside India. So through this podcast, we also wanted to get your opinion on, how this will possibly take shape for DTU.
I think it's an excellent idea. And let me explain that a little more. So these professors who happen to be alumni of DTU or DCE, they have seen and done so much in other places.
Right.
If they are brought back as a distinguished professor in residence, they will communicate their experiences with the present students and faculty here.
Absolutely.
And that's where you have this amalgamation of ideas, something that the students and faculty are thinking here, something that this outside person is bringing, and what that may bring up may be something they had not thought of before. So it's always a good idea to bring people who have had experience somewhere else, and that experience is brought over here, and that benefits both the students and the faculty. At the same time, let me say this, that those experienced professors who are experienced somewhere else, that they would love nothing more than coming back to their alma mater and
Yes.
contributing
Yes.
to the students and the faculty over here.
Absolutely, sir. And I think, as you said, on the same lines, that professors are always full of knowledge everywhere they are. And being a faculty member myself, I think I have to ask this question from you: that what's your message for the faculty members at DTU? And should a faculty member be hard on the students? Should they be easy? Is there a perfect balance? How does it go?
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer. For one thing, I would say, even for the faculty members, certainly you are the expert in your subject, which you are trying to impart to the students, and the students benefit from that. But always be open to what you hear from them, from the students, both in terms of how it's helping them, or something that maybe you explained but they did not understand, so that you can then explain it in a different way. And at the same time, any new ideas they have, and see how you can encourage them to continue and develop those ideas further. Sometimes we as professors, because we think we know best, discourage a student when the student discusses a new idea. I think one should get out of that mindset.
Absolutely.
And say, okay, this is your idea, why don't you pursue it? And if it doesn't work exactly this way, maybe you'll find a better way.
Exactly.
So the point I'm making is that for the future generation, teach them to keep their mind open, so that they don't limit themselves to only what they have learned in the class or only what they have learned in the books, but they are open to new ideas in the future.
And so, as you said about the students, they have so many ideas. We see that in the classes as well. They're always proposing something new, and they don't limit themselves to whether this is possible or it's not possible. They just think out of the box. So we have many such, student innovators, I should say, at DTU, a new generation that's coming up. And DTU also has an incubation and innovation foundation now for that effect, to encourage such students. So being a wonderful and a phenomenal innovator yourself, we would like a message from you for the students of DTU, that how should they pursue things, and just a message from you for them.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would go back to the faculty mentors. When you advise a student for research, my way of doing it is to always start with the end result that you would like them to achieve. In other words, a certain product or certain process that would help the world. And if that excites that student, then say, okay, now you need to do this research to get there. So because when a student has that final result in mind, that student works so hard to achieve that result that you would be amazed as to how much work or research that student will do to achieve that.
So, sir, it has been a wonderful interaction with you. I think it's an honor for our university to be able to take this podcast, because I'm sure not just today, but for the years that our students will be viewing this podcast and listening to your ideas, they'll be wanting to follow in your footsteps, and that's going to add many more glorious chapters like you in the history of this university. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure to be on it, and thank you for asking those tough questions. I've enjoyed it, and I hope it benefits the students and the faculty.
Thank you very much, sir.